Yes, welcome back. It's F1 2021, it's my team, and today on Shog's GP calendar, we're joined with round number 4 for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. Now, this is one of my favourite circuits on the calendar, and if not my favourite racetrack to race round. So, yeah, hopefully this will be a thrilling race for you guys to watch at home. But before we get into this video, if you do like this video, then be sure to hit that like button down below, as it means a lot. And if you want more content and more My Team Career Mode episodes, then make sure you subscribe to keep up to date and follow on for more. As in the last episode, if you did miss it, we were in Monaco and we struggled, to say the least. I mean, first of all, we got out-qualified by our teammate, which, I mean, didn't help that our car wasn't as good as the rest and which wasn't up to be able to match the pace of the other cars. And then to top things off, we came across our first retirement. We just lost control of the car, got too much overspeed going into that little chicane there, as you saw on screen, and yeah, we just decked it into the side of the barricade and sheared our wheel clean off. But if you did want to go check out that episode, then it is on my channel, so be sure to hit that subscribe button. But let's get into this race weekend. So yeah, now the last two race weekends have been a bit disappointing. I mean, the first one obviously was a very boring race weekend in Spain, and now we've had our first retirement, so it's not looking good for Shog's GP at the minute. Even though our teammate is performing to the level we expected him to perform, but yeah, we just need to catch up the pace and become the first driver that we're meant to be. But in order to do that, we're going to need a car that can keep up with our skill level and keep up with the other cars around the track and give our rivals a fight that's worthy. So yeah, that's what we're going to do. And to do that, we're going to invest in our chassis and aero, most importantly, as I think our durability side is already at the level we expect it to be at this moment in time, especially in season 1. And I think we're going to get some mechanical faults along the way in season 1 anyway, so it's going to be a slow process to upgrade that durability side, and I'd rather invest that R&D money into the areas that are more important in progressing with our season, progressing in moving further up in the Constructor Championship. So yeah, I think aero would be most important for me to invest in at the minute, and then probably chassis, as our powertrain's already heavily invested in as we started this career mode. So yeah, I think trying to get as many upgrades on the aerodynamic side as possible, and then slowly work onto the chassis, and then our car should be at a stage where we sort of feel like the R&D points could be shared out equally between all the different departments. That way we could get a very even car going forward, so, and maybe even a title winning car, so let's just hope for that. But right now though, we've got a little bit of cash to work with, so we're going to buy some perks on ourselves and invest that money on ourselves to try and help us gain some more resource points, and also in some speech lessons as well. Nevertheless, we jump straight into qualifying, and we're here in Baku, hoping for a much better weekend this time out. So fingers crossed, double crossed, and even toes crossed for that luck is on our side this time out. And to better those chances even more, we've come out straight away here to try and increase the amount of laps we can do around this Q1 qualifying session, as it looks like we're going to need them as we go too deep into that first corner. It's just lost us a bunch of time there, but nevertheless we still got about 3 or 4 more laps to put things right and get a better lap time in. So hopefully we can just use this first lap to just get an ease into the track and get a feel for the cars. We've almost just ended our qualifying session on the first lap here. We died just a little bit too early into that high speed chicane, and luckily enough we just come away with just a slight bit of damage to our front wing. Luckily that's all we've got, as it could have easily ended our qualifying session there and then, and we could have been starting from the back of the grid. But nevertheless, we come through and set the lap time so we can, you know, base our next couple of laps off of it. We've got 6 minutes left of the session, so only about 2 more laps to make things count. And as you can see on the screen, we're doing just that, and we're trying our best going through this tricky sector 2 sector in Baku, and we're just acing every apex we come up to. And as we come through the high speed chicane that got the better of us last time out, we're upwards of a second up on our previous lap time, 1.2 climbing to 1.3 coming through on this home straight, hoping that this can shoot us into the Q2 session. What's it going to be? It's provisional P13. That gives us some breathing room to the cars behind, and some breathing room into Q2. So hopefully that lap was enough, but we came in anyway, and there was only 4 minutes left on the clock. We come out for another lap, but there's only 7 seconds left, counting down to get to the line, but we're not going to make it. And it was a stupid decision to come in after that lap anyway, because it takes almost a minute and a half to get round the lap as it is. But thankfully we get through to Q2 in P14, and we've beaten our teammate Drogovic, and we're over a second up on our teammate, so that's not a very good showing by him. And although it's not really a cause for concern, and it's still early days, it's only round 4 in the season, but it just does make us think, are we going to stick with the young guns here, or are we going to get a more experienced driver in for the second season? I mean, by looking at that, I'm leaning towards the second option here. But going back to our POV on board, we did just make a silly error as we decked it into the side of the wall. We were just pushing this car too hard for its own strengths, really, and that just gave us a wash of overs there, and that's lost us some time in this Q2 session. So we're probably going to lose a lap from going into the pits and having to repair our front wing. Not ideal, but we're going to have to make the best out of this bad situation and try and get at least 2 more laps in, hopefully, if we can make it round the track in one piece. But when we're not in the wall, I do really think we have some great pace around this track, and even though our car on paper doesn't show that it should be getting into Q3 sessions, I do really think there is a chance we can get into the session. But if we're going to keep skating around the corners like that, well, then we're not going to stand any sort of a chance. And as we come up to the line now, we're not going to catch Tsunoda's time of 1:40.8, and we are P16 still. Overall, I don't really think that was a terrible lap to start off with, but as we got further and further through the lap, we just started making little mistakes on the exit of the corners, and yeah, we just lost lots of time there. But that was on a scrub set of tyres from when we did crash into the wall, so maybe with this new set of tyres we can try and change up the game. But yeah, we needed to go out right away, otherwise we weren't going to be able to set another lap time in. So we've got 20 seconds left of this qualifying session, so it's now or never. But being on this new compound of softs means that we won't have a fresh set for Q3. That is if we actually make it into Q3 by any sort of miracle. But looking at our time now, we're 1.1 second up on our previous lap time. That will take us and elevate us above Tsunoda, and that will mean that we'll be starting one of the top runners from this Q2 session. So hopefully we just keep this up, going through the final chicane here. We've had 2 green sectors, and now we're coming up to the line. We're now 1.5 seconds up and climbing on a last lap time that will take us above Stroll at this point in time, and maybe even into the Q3 session. DRS flowing now, coming past the pit straight. What's it going to be? 1.6 seconds up. We come across the line and we're sitting in P11. We put a stonking effort into this qualifying session, and hopefully now that we're sitting best of the rest, we can carry over this momentum going into the race.
A warm welcome to all of you watching at home to today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix, and a race that in its short history has already proven no stranger to drama. A 4th row start is just about as likely to give you a podium as a pole position would. And remember, in 2017 and 2018, both Lance Stroll and then Sergio Perez took surprise podiums here. Baku City Circuit then, an unpredictable 3.7-mile track around the streets of the Azerbaijan capital. 20 turns for our drivers to navigate today, including the infamous Turn 8, one of the tightest and most challenging corners of the season. It's time to take a look at our starting grid for today's race. Valtteri Bottas lines up on pole position, and P2 goes to Daniel Ricciardo, a strong showing from the Australian. Looking down the rest of the grid, we have Norris, Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Perez, Sainz, Vettel, Gasly and Sharp, Hamilton, Stroll, Yuki Tsunoda and Raikkonen, Ocon, Russell, Nicholas Latifi and Mick Schumacher, Drogovic, Mazepin, Fernando Alonso. They'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Antonio Giovinazzi starts from the back of the grid. It's almost time for the lights to go out, so let's head down to the track and get this Grand Prix underway.
So So Lewis Hamilton, one of the championship leaders, have taken a grid penalty, and that has meant that we've moved up to P10. So that's one of the best, the best position that we've been in this career mode so far. So if we get a strategy right today and we play our cards right, then we have a great chance at getting some points in today's race. And with sunny skies, that means we have the choice of doing a 1-stop or a 2-stop in today's race. And I think the 2-stop is going to be better for us, just because I want to avoid tyre wear and I want to be as aggressive as possible. And going off the projected times on the screen there isn't much difference between them. So hopefully by being aggressive, we can make the most of this situation. But back on track now as we go to 5 red lights for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix for round number 4, and we are underway. It's a bit of a slow start for us, but Gasly gets a quick getaway and gets a jump on Sainz and Vettel ahead of him. We're going to turn 1, looking to see if we get a gap down the inside of the Aston Martin, but we have to back out. That pushes Hamilton wide and deep, so we stay ahead of Hamilton. We make the lunge down the inside of Vettel this time though, giving him just enough space on the exit to work with, trying to keep it clean and fair racing. But now Hamilton and Vettel are both coming straight back at me, and they're much faster cars than I am, regardless of the fact that they're better drivers than me. But it's a drag race into this tight corner, and Hamilton has managed to squeeze up the inside, but we managed to outbrake him, and we can look to hold position for now and look to chase on Sainz as we go on in this race. But as we tried to outbrake Hamilton, we almost decked it into the side of the wall there, but luckily enough we managed to slow the car down just enough to be able to turn into that corner, and luckily we come away with little to no damage. As we saw on screen there, everything was green luckily, and maybe that we only just scraped a bit of our paintwork, but that was some courageous driving by us just then. But now we can look to get onto the tail of Sainz and look to get him on the next couple of laps. Hamilton, meanwhile, one of the championship leaders in this season, is down in P11, so Vettel must have been able to overtake him at that same corner and get the better of him, as Hamilton must have gone a little bit too deep into that corner, and that's stunted his chances of getting a podium in this race. And it's vital for Lewis to get the podium today, as Valtteri Bottas has already won 2 races, so if he wants any chance of being in this title fight, then he needs to win today and put on a good show. Even if it is early doors in this season, being able to stop your title rival from going on a winning streak and continuing to win is so important, just because that new feature in this game, the new focus feature, will allow drivers to carry momentum going into races. And if drivers continuously do well, then they're going to be difficult to stop, as we're now on board with Lando Norris as he's making the move on Verstappen, going across the line into the second lap. We go round the first corner, he's round the outside as they jockey for position, but then they're still neck and neck going into the second corner. Verstappen has the inside line, but Norris manages to keep his fit and going round the outside, and Max gave him just enough room to work with, making for a great street battle. But now we're on the back of Sainz, looking to get the inside line into the braking zone, narrowly avoiding Gasly on the exit, and we just about slow the car down enough. But now Sainz is coming back at us. He's got the inside line going into the second corner. We go round the outside just like Norris did, and we bang our sideboard against the wall. I tried to give Sainz enough room to work with there as he went down the inside and got stuck on the curb, and I checked to see if there's any sort of damage, but everything's in green on the HUD, and I think we're okay to carry on. On the very next lap though, we're now on the back of Pierre Gasly, and we're looking to get him on the next couple of laps as we go up through the castle section, one of the trickiest set of corners in F1, and I think we're looking quite comfortable going through that, just so long as we can get a good exit out of this next corner, and it doesn't look like we have, so we can't get a Gasly in sector 2, so we're gonna have to wait till sector 3 to get him on that main straight, just like how we got Sainz going into the first corner. So far so good. We're playing our cards right and not being overly aggressive, like charging into overtakes and making silly mistakes that would cost us this race. We're just remaining patient, and hopefully this patience can pay off and get us some points at the end of this race. But right now we're on the back of Gasly. We managed to get a good run out of that corner, looking to get the toe into the final main straight. A bit wobbly out of that corner, and that's not somewhere you want to lose grip in the car, so we have to try and regain the toe from Gasly. Hopefully we can get some DRS and some overtake flowing, or maybe we're just going to settle for DRS only, as that's all we need to overtake the AlphaTauri. Going into the first corner, we get our elbows out a little bit, and that's job done. But as we enter sector 2 on the very same lap, we make a meal of the chicane there, getting too much on the curbs, and that's allowed Gasly to come down the inside. We go side by side into the castle section, and 2 cars do not go into one, as we're a little bit overly aggressive there, maybe not allowing Pierre enough room to work with, but nevertheless we stay ahead and do not receive any penalties. 2 laps later though, and we're coming through the same section of the track, coming out of the castle section and onto the long 2 left-handers, and we leave with a bad exit, and that's allowed Hamilton to come right on
our tail. We bang the wall, we bang Hamilton as he goes ahead, but we make a courageous dive down the outside. Lewis has had to go across the curb to leave us enough room there as we get a better exit out of that corner though. We check our HUD to see if there's any sort of damage from those two bits of contact, and it looks as though there's the slightest bit of damage on our front wing. I didn't know this at the time though, but what I did know is that Lewis's tyres are much fresher than mine. Mine are in the yellows, almost at 50% on the fronts, and now Lewis has a great chance to overtake me going down the main straight, just like how I overtook Gasly and Sainz beforehand early on in this race. But nevertheless, we have to come in for a pit stop to get that front wing changed and our tyres changed, because these ones aren't going to last much longer at all. So Lewis stays out on the longer lasting medium tyres, and myself, Perez and Sainz are all in for our pit stop, and I'm confident that this bold two-stop strategy will work in Baku. I mean, I think just going aggressive and going hard on the tyres will pay dividends for us, especially as the pit stop straight in Baku is much shorter than other racetracks around in the F1 calendar, and I'm hopeful that we may be able to manage to get away with some points here in today's race, but not with a pit stop like that. I mean, even with a front wing change, that was a very slow pit stop as it was nearing the double figures mark, and that means that we've got a lot of hard work and catching up to do if we want to get back to where we were earlier on in this race. But from what I can see on the display is that Sainz is only 4 seconds ahead of us, and on the very next lap we're now right behind him, and there seems to be a huge pack of cars that are holding many of the drivers up as they come in for their pit stops, including myself, including Sainz, and I think Perez is just further up the road. So we're back in the race for the points as we see them weaving their way up through the castle section, and I'm fairly certain it's the Haas car of Mick Schumacher that's holding everybody up. He must be doing some stellar defending up there in P9 or P8 it must be, because there's so many cars that he's holding up. There must be at least 10 cars on just ahead of me that he's holding up, and that's allowed myself and the Williams of George Russell to catch up with this train, as it's almost acting like it's almost a safety car in the middle of this race, and the AI drivers are not able to make the overtakes that they're capable of doing. I mean, the Sainz is in a much quicker car than Mazepin, and he's just not able to get past him at the minute. So hopefully we can capitalise on these road blockages and hopefully sneak up the table, as we're now on the back of Sainz. We got a bad exit, well, a mediocre exit off the last corner, but with DRS and with overtake we've got so much speed going down the main straight. We're going round the outside of Sainz and Mazepin, going for the double overtake, leaving them enough space round the first corner, and we've made that move comfortably. That was like taking candy from a baby, and throughout that Sainz is still behind Mazepin. So after all of his efforts going down that main straight, down the inside into the first bend, he was not able to get past him. He's still behind him as we now catch up to Vettel, who's behind our teammate Drugovich. So now here's his time to prove his worth and prove his loyalty to the team. Can he keep the German at bay and make life easier for us going through this high speed chicane? We tried to make the crossover, but we have to lift up a little bit, otherwise we would have gone straight inside that wall. But Vettel's now making the move on Drugovich. He hasn't got the same amount of speed as he did in the toe, so we look left, we look right, so we go down the middle, making contact with our teammate. We get blocked off left, right and centre there, in trying to make that overtake. So we try and brake as late as possible going into the first corner, and somehow we come out in front of Vettel and Drugovich, and luckily we come away from our encounter left unscathed from the contact we made with our teammate. That could have ended so badly, not just for us but for our teammate. I mean, we knocked his back wheel there, so he could have easily span out into the wall at such a high speed. That could be an awful crash for him. But now we're on the back of Leclerc as we caught up with the train, and now we've made a move down the inside. Move so unexpected that it actually caught me off guard there. But I've got to say that was a brilliant move and a very well timed one by us. The gap opened up so nicely there as Perez was just going so slowly round that corner. He's holding up Latifi and Gasly. I mean, both cars are slower than him, so Perez should be moving at a faster rate, and now we can see that Perez has managed to get away from the two cars and has managed to sort out whatever problem he had just then. But now we're on the back of Gasly and Latifi going down the main straight. We're down on the inside this time, and we just seem to can't get enough of overtaking in this section of the track, as we are loving it right now. And I think that must be our third double overtake here in today's race, which is an absolutely bonkers stat because our car is not at that level where it should be making these double overtakes, and somehow we're just managing to pull it off. We're back on board now. It's now lap 11 and we've managed to catch up to Perez, who's about a second ahead of us just moments ago early on in this same lap, and we just set a green sector in sector 1, so hopefully we can look to get the overtake done in the final embers of this lap. A red sector in sector 2, but nevertheless we're still on the back of Perez, only half a second behind him as he's catching up to Giovinazzi. So hopefully Giovinazzi can hold him up enough for us to make the overtake on this straight. We just need a big enough toe to be able to launch us past both the drivers and get the 4th double overtake done of this race. But can we do it now on the back of Giovinazzi going round the outside into the braking zone? We brake so late, and Perez is just on our inside there, and we managed to get past Perez as well. We had to tiptoe and dance our way around Giovinazzi to get that move done, as we were left with hardly any room to work with. But luckily enough, we managed to keep one tyre on the racetrack at all times, and we managed to get that move done. But one lap later, and a few people have pitted, so that's bumped us and Perez up to P8 and P9. But now Perez is on the back of us, and we've set 2 red sectors in sector 1 and sector 2, and now he's got a great opportunity to come back at us, but he's not gaining any time on us at the moment. So I think we're going to be alright going into this first corner, but there is a second DRS straight just coming up ahead, so getting a good exit out of this next corner is going to be key to us staying ahead in this race. And just like that, we've managed to keep our speed up going through that corner, and I don't think the Mexican has it in him. He's on the hard compounder tyres, so he hasn't got as much grip as I do on these mediums, and I think we're just about staying ahead with this tyre advantage. But lap by lap, my tyres are going to continue to deplete, and his is only going to find more grip and find more time on me as I keep setting red sectors. But now as we enter the final straight, Perez is only a 10th behind me, and he's surely going to find the pace in him to overtake me. He's going for it. He's found the toe. He's got overtake flowing. He's down the inside. I'm trying to keep my position as close to the inside as possible, but now we have to retreat, go round the outside and try and find a better racing line than him, and we managed to do so. We managed to stay ahead somehow, but I can't imagine that's going to last very long, as these tyres are going to deplete more and more, like I said before, and they're just going to wear out on this asphalt. And if I keep pushing and keep this defense up against Perez, as I'm only going to lose time and lose my tyres in the process. But I'm sure we're going to have a pit stop in the next couple of laps as Perez makes a move down the inside. We have to close that off, otherwise we weren't going to make the corner, as we almost go into the barrier there. Perez actually has to take avoiding action, otherwise he's going to go straight into me, and as 2 cars wouldn't go into one in that section of the racetrack. We've now gone very slow through that chicane as we've lost all composure, and that's allowed Perez to come chasing on the back of me, but he knows this time to remain patient as we drift the car around, slam it into the barrier there, and luckily we've done no real damage to the car, and we've managed to stay ahead of Perez in the process. So I don't know how we've managed to stay ahead of him, to be honest, but we come in for a fresh set of tyres regardless. Perez follows us into the pit lane, and I think all we can do is hope and pray we don't have a front wing change like we did as we came into the last pit stop, as we did make a few bits of contact in that stint just then. But yeah, luckily no front wing change that time, and we can stay ahead of Perez and make our way into P11. So from now on in this race is now the time where the positions count, and there are no more provisional positions, so it's all to play for right now in this race. As we've got now on the back of Alonso going round the outside, he's on the hard tyres, so hopefully we've got more grip than him going into this corner, and we get the elbows out to make that move stick. So now we're in P10. We got 1 point on the board at the moment. We're now on the back of Raikkonen on the very same lap, looking to make the overtake. We go left, we go right, we go left again, down the inside, and with DRS there's only going to be one winner of that battle, and that's us. So we now move up to P9, and ahead of us is Stroll and Schumacher. Mick Schumacher somehow found his way into P7 in a Haas car. That is an amazing triumph for him, unless he needs to come into the pits now, but surely he wouldn't on lap number 19. We're now chasing on the back of Stroll, trying to find the toe to get the move and make the move work. We set a purple sector 1 and a sector 2, going the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far, making the move round the outside. We've done a double overtake for the 5th time in this race, and that one must have been the best of the lot, as we ducked to the inside on Schumacher and weaved through the gap to find our way round the outside on Stroll, and that was just one of the most satisfying moves I've done in this career mode so far, as we're now trying to lose the toe of Stroll, snaking left to right as we go down the main straight and into the first corner. We've managed to keep him at bay so far, but on that last lap he seemed like a man on a different level. His pace was so much faster than mine as we clipped the right bumper trying to slow the car down, but now Stroll can come right back at us with DRS, and he's the faster car. We're just the sitting duck here in this second straight. There was nothing we could do to stop that man from getting past us, but now we can try and capitalise on him in the corners where we're probably much better than him, and we've got much more grip than Stroll. But that Aston Martin car does seem on a different level to us right now, as we're just overshooting each corner we go into. So that's not going to help for our fight. It's to reclaim that P7 position. But as we can see, Stroll has now zoomed off into the distance, and I think all we can do now is try and fight for this P8. But that's not going to be an easy challenge, as it's the second Aston Martin car that's right on our tail. Sebastian Vettel is not an easy man to defend against, but I think if we use our ERS mode wisely and properly on these main straights, then I think we have a chance of defending this position. But right now, Vettel makes the move down the inside. We managed to close him off at his high-speed chicane, but he makes a beautiful switchback move, and that's a move that only one of the best drivers in the world can pull off. We make contact with the wall as we lose a bit of composure, but luckily enough for us, we managed to keep that position because he made the move before the DRS activation point, and that allowed us to get the DRS and regain that position that we just lost. But that was a let off for us, as we could have easily been out the points there with Perez and Gasly closing in on Vettel as well. I think it was 3 wide at one point, but yeah, that was a massive let off for us, as if we didn't have DRS, we would have easily been out of the points there. But now Perez is on the inside of us as we try and get the yellow wheels out, going into this corner. We skate back out to the outside, trying to leave him enough room to work with, but it's still neck and neck going into this next corner, and we dive down the inside, trying to slow down Perez as much as possible, like he did to us. But luckily enough, that overly aggressive dive bomb actually worked, and he was much kinder to us than we were to him in the last couple of laps of stint 2. But yeah, luckily we stay ahead in P8, and we've got a massive train behind us now as we enter the last lap of the Grand Prix. Right now we've managed to keep him behind all this time, and it's now Vettel, Sainz, Alonso and Leclerc all battling for this position. I think Perez actually dropped off because he had a front wing change, as I think he went into the barrier at the corner we overtook him at. So maybe a few apologies will be said at the end of this race, but for now we have to find everything from within us to keep Vettel and Alonso and Sainz and Leclerc behind us for one last lap, as Vettel makes the dive down the inside, going into the corner. We keep our line, keep our foot in, and we manage to stay ahead for now. And I know our tyres must be feeling the pressure by now, but for one thing I know for sure, the cars behind us aren't feeling the pressure, because they've handled their tyres much better than I have this whole race, and it's really going to show in this last lap, as Vettel is now on the back of us and going round the outside, making a desperate lunge into this corner where two cars do not go into one. We've seen that before, into this castle section, and yeah, he had to back out of that one, otherwise there was going to be some damage to someone's car. But in the midst of all that panic, my teammate Drugovich goes out of this Grand Prix on the last lap, so that's heartbreaking for him. I'm not too sure where he was placed. But right now on board of us, and Sainz has just spun out. He spun out at the high-speed corner, and he just lost loads of grip going round that high-speed corner, trying to overtake Vettel, and he's now just decked it into the wall, and surely he's lost his front wing, and I'm so surprised he's not DNF'd out of this race. But right now we're on the final straight going round this high-speed chicane, and we're having to keep Vettel at bay. Look, there's 3 cars on the tail of us, and I don't know how this race is going to finish. Is it going to be me? Is it going to be Vettel? I'm using ERS now, and I think Vettel hasn't got it in him to overtake me, and it's now the checkered flags in sight, and we've managed to stay ahead and get that P8 position. But what a final lap. I mean, that final lap had it all. We were defending for our lives, and then Sainz crashed out. I'm so surprised he didn't actually DNF from the race or take anyone with him, and then no one could find the pace to make any overtakes on that final straight. I mean, that was so bizarre. Oh my god.
Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
I feel like consistency was probably the key today. There's being quick, and then there's being quick lap after lap after lap. If you can do that, you can capitalise on other people's errors without making many of your own. And that's an approach that can push you a long way up the field.
After an excellent performance at the Grand Prix, I'm sure there'll be plenty of celebrations tonight amongst the Mercedes team, and they certainly deserve it.
So in amongst all that madness, Valtteri Bottas takes the win, Ricciardo second, and the other McLaren, Norris, takes the third place. But what a final lap that was. And even though I managed to keep Hamilton at bay in the beginning of that race, he finds his way up to P4, Verstappen 5th, Tsunoda 6th, Stroll comfortably in P7, we take P8, Vettel P9, Alonso rounded out the points in P10, which meant the Ferraris lost out on any sort of points then, Leclerc in P11, and Sainz somehow managed to stay in P12 even with that race ending incident. But yeah, Valtteri Bottas leads this championship with 17 points in front of Lewis Hamilton, but yeah, Mercedes are top of the table as well, so no change there. But yeah, if you did enjoy this race, then please make sure to hit that like button, as I know I certainly enjoyed it. And if you're after more content like this, when next time we'll be in Canada for the Canadian Grand Prix, then please make sure to hit that subscribe button as well.